Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to introduce today's guest, Caroline Koehler, a good friend of mine and a person with a giant heart and a love for educating students. For over 20 years, she has dedicated her career to teaching. She's been a kindergarten teacher, she's been a special education teacher in self contained and inclusion settings, and she holds not one, but two master's degree in general education and special education. And she has taken all of this experience and she has turned it into a thriving career supporting teachers. She has lots of digital resources, she has a membership, and she has helped teachers in over 80 different countries. She is already making a worldwide impact. Caroline is just an Indiana farm girl at heart. She is married to her high school sweetheart, and she is super, super passionate about helping teachers focus on what matters the most, and that is students. So today she's here. She's going to talk to us about how we can manage all the things, the paperwork, the juggling, all of the demands that we have on us. And I cannot wait for you to hear from her. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here. I don't get to talk to my friends very often on the podcast, so I'm excited to have you here. And we'll start by letting you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, it's super great to be here. So, my name is Caroline Koehler. I am now a teacher author, but I was a teacher for 20 years. I taught kindergarten, special education in a self contained setting, an inclusion setting for middle school kids, third graders, all jazz. And let's see, something about me. I love almost all furry animals. I love hot chocolate, and I always have too many tabs open on my computer.
Oh my gosh, all of that we have in common. I love anything furry. I not only have a lot of tabs, I have a lot of windows and a lot of monitors, three monitors, and each one has a window with about 100 tabs. But the only difference is I would prefer to have coffee over hot chocolate. Do you drink coffee?
I don't. I drink a good, nice hot tea, but yeah, I never got into coffee. My husband's grandpa told me never to start it if I hadn't in my 20s. So I was like, all right. So I
Oh my
never
God.
did. Yeah.
That's such
Yeah.
good advice for so many things. If we could just remember that. Okay, so 20 years in one of the most difficult jobs in the entire school, but
Mhm.
also one of the most rewarding jobs that's in the school. So tell us how you got interested in special education.
Yeah, that like when you kind of look back, I kind of think I always leaned that way. I just didn't realize it at first because I loved the little ones so much. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher until I retire at 65, you know. And I jumped jobs from states. And when I ended up at this great school, they just started an autism program. And literally, my classroom was in one spot, and the next door over was the autism room. And I think I started with 3 of their students in kindergarten in my gen ed class. And I just loved everything about it. The kids were great. I mean, they had high needs, don't get me wrong, but all the different things it was just figuring out how to help them with day-to-day activities like lunch and then academics put together, which is super, super interesting to me. And this big round of layoffs came through the whole state, and left the school, not by choice, by reduction in force, and I went and worked in home therapy for 2 years with infants and toddlers. And then that autism classroom job came open, and I was like, I think I'm going to apply for it. So I thought I had an interview to apply for the job, and I went in for the interview with my nice little interview outfit, my little portfolio, and the principal literally laughed when she saw me and handed me the keys to the classroom in the building, and I was like, oh. He was like, no, 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 no. I have no questions for you. Go to your room. I was like, oh, she was great, but that was definitely her personality. So that's kind of how I ended up there. But it was really just such interesting things with autism. So that's where my love for special ed started.
Oh, I love that. We had at the schools that I worked at Making Connections Autism Unit,
Mhm.
and I loved it and had so much respect for the teachers of those classes because they made such a big difference and they helped me so much in my classroom as the gen ed teacher.
Yes.
So I'm sure you've probably worked with tons and tons of gen ed teachers over the years. So you've had a chance to look at a lot of classrooms and a lot of what's going on with them. What would you kind of say were the biggest three challenges that gen ed teachers are facing when it comes to teaching special education?
Yeah, I think if you've been in it for a little bit, you might agree that it just seems like it's getting more every year for every teacher. But the gen ed teachers, they've got the high achieving kids, they've got the kids in the middle, they get the sped kids that come in with IEPs, and they're just trying to juggle everything on top of everything. And so, I mean, just organizing all of that together is just this true art form. One of my brother-in-laws is like, when their kids started school, he was like, "Oh my gosh, the kindergarten teacher, she can make them do everything." And I'm like, "Yeah, they have to. That's the only way you can get anything done." And so his respect for teachers just like went through the roof at when he saw the first couple school visits. But regardless, so organization and organizing all of that all together, and that a lot of that starts with that under that nobody really sees, that building your lesson plans, building out charts, sitting notes home, all the daily behavior that you have to document and record that used to be just the special education teacher's job, and now it's like everybody or anybody, and sometimes it seems like it falls mainly on the gen ed teacher, and just making sure that all that gets communicated to home, to the administration, all of that. And then another big one is
I'm
like,
getting flashbacks.
right, yeah,
And my heart's racing remembering all of that.
yeah, like give me all the supports, right? Give me all the things. But yeah, just and then behavior tools, like you can see things behind me if you're watching this on a YouTube link. I have like volume control and feelings monitors and cue cards and how to calm down list and all the things that you need, and these should all be in every general education classroom, but it's hard to get all those organized at first. So keeping all that in mind, and then throwing in what I would say the third thing would be is that preventive maintenance. So like that the unexpected is going to happen, and how do you do that? What do you do? What do you set forth, and how do you go to make sure that your classroom is that well-oiled machine that we all want so much?
Yeah, that's such a challenge, just not considering any special needs or any GT students you have or any physical challenges students have. It's just hard enough for your average regular kid. And when you start putting it all together, it can seem so impossible. And it can almost be impossible,
Hmm.
honestly.
Hmm.
So what kind of tips do you have to help teachers be able to do all of that?
Yeah, I think like especially that underlying organization that you want to start with. And like some people will cringe with this, but I'm like, get as much of it done as you can before the school year starts. So like a curriculum map, I've got a curriculum map behind me as well. Make sure that you've got as much of your lesson plans set out and ready to go so that you can dive into the school year, because things just start popping up all over the place, and all of a sudden it's Monday morning and you don't have your lesson plan. It's like, well, you can have at least a bare bone lesson plan. So, but then also, you need to start getting all of your collection of like, how are you going to collect that data? What kind of behavior charts do you like in your classroom? What kind of behavior charts are you absolutely not going to use in your classroom? So start looking at all of those things, what others have shown you that works, kind of adapt that for you and your students, and just make sure you've got your solid framework ready to go. I know sometimes like you might not be sure how you're going to organize this or that, but just try to figure out, especially digitally, because it's usually faster. If you can organize it digitally, it's way faster. So let me give you an example on that. So every school year, like if I looked back, I started teaching in 2002. I literally have a school year and it's labeled 2002, 2003. And it has all my lesson plans and all the notes and all the field trips and this and that and that. And once that year was done, I put that into a new folder called past school years. Very, very creative. And then I went on to the next school year, next school year, next school year, so that I have a template each school year and I don't have to start from my bare bones and wonder what's going to get me. And all of a sudden, this and that, I can keep building on that and moving along. So I would definitely start that as a framework. And then that next big one for any teacher is your behavior toolkit. What do you have that you can grab? And you might have a great special education teacher or behavior teacher who has all these things that they can help you with or give you. but collect those and keep them because sometimes they're really busy or, they've had they're in an all day IEP meetings or, somebody's had a crisis or whatever. So you've got all those things that they've already given you ready to go. That can be in a file folder, however your organization works to make sure that you know where it is and you're good to go. I had this teacher that I just loved. It was her first year. We worked together a few years ago. And she told me one day, she was like, Caroline, my college professors lied. Behavior charts do not work. And I was like, that is not true. You're just trying to use the same behavior chart for every kid in a completely different manner. I'm like, that doesn't work. That's true. You've got to have multiple different things to pull from, and you've got to be able to figure out which chart works for who, how can I adjust it, and all that differentness. So just don't waste your time with the wrong thing and the wrong everything. Just move on, look for what you need to when you can. And we talked a little bit about preventing problems. So preventive maintenance is totally key in any classroom, but especially those with the younger students, just whatever you can do to prevent problems. So, first off, classroom rules, have visual classroom rules, word those as positively as possible. Have a discipline letter that you send home. Of course, have your principal approve it, make sure it's out, all that business is good to go, and have a routine for everything, even the unexpected. And that always floors people. They're like, how in the world can I have a routine for something that's unexpected? Well, you already do. Like, what do you do during a fire drill? What do you do during a tornado drill? What do you do during a lockdown drill? So it's things like that. Like, what do you do when somebody goes home early, unexpectedly? What do you do with all their work? How do you catch them up the next day? All those different unusual things that pop up. School assembly that just came out of the blue because, maybe some military person came back and yay, it's a wonderful thing, but it's also now things are in chaos. So what do you do? So anything that you can do to prevent those problems, to have a system in place, will make your life better.
I remember being a first year teacher and letting anything go. Like, I wanted the kids to come up to my desk anytime they had a problem or anytime they had a question. They didn't have to raise their hand and wait for me. Well, what I realized is year after year, I started figuring out what didn't work for me. And then it was just creating the procedures and the routines and the buy-in for doing the things that, I wanted to do. So all of that was like preventative, and I didn't realize it. And there were just things I didn't realize that I would want to prevent from happening until those things became an issue in my
Yeah. Oh,
class.
for sure.
So as a general ed teacher, it is very overwhelming. I remember years where I just felt so overwhelmed because I had so many students that were in my class with special needs and IEPs, and I was using so many of my planning periods going to ARDS, and I had kids on all these different behavior charts and folders, and some of the parents would get mad if I was honest with them about their day or wanted to know like why. It was just so hard, and I didn't know really what to do about it because I didn't want to come across like I was complaining all the time and whining. Everybody else had it hard too. And I also didn't want to come across as being incompetent because I wanted my principal and everybody to think I was doing a fabulous job with all of my students. But I felt lost and extremely overwhelmed a lot of the time. So I think that teachers need an idea of what they can do when they're feeling that way or where they can go. What would you suggest to someone who is a gen ed teacher who has several special needs students?
Mhm.
Where do they go or turn to?
Yeah, I think this is a hard one because it's going to be different in every situation, in every building, in every location of the world. But it does break my heart because, as a school, as a community, as a world, we have to work together to address everybody's needs. And that doesn't just mean if you have an IEP. If you're a teacher and you're
Mhm.
trying to manage everyone's needs, including your own, you have to have support to do that. And yeah, it just makes me want to give everybody a hug because it's just so.
Mhm.
And anybody
Mhm.
that knows you, Cassie, knows that you had the best interest for everybody in mind. And if you're asking for help, then somebody should pay attention and listen. And that was always my motto. It's like, if you need my help, then you have my attention. And so I think the first thing is approaching your wording in a way that will make you maybe not feel like you're doing something wrong. You're just wanting extra. So you could say something like, hey, I would love to get some additional ideas from you on how to handle, too many meetings I'm going to, paperwork overload, anything like that. So always asking for additional. And the thing is even if you don't have any ideas yourself, you have no idea what you're doing, just still word it that way. It's fine. No big deal. No big so whatever you can do to make yourself feel more comfortable at asking for help. And, especially when you're young or it's, you're new in the building, it is hard because you want to feel like you have all the answers. But just remember that everybody was there. And if they tell you they weren't, they're not telling you the truth. And, we all get stumped no matter how many kids you've seen or how many things you've done right. There's going to be a student that stumps you out there and you're just not sure what to do. That's why you keep trying things. So find somebody to talk to. Like my poor husband, it was usually the one that I was bouncing ideas off, which could be really helpful for the record because he has a completely different mind than mine. So he gives me all kinds of different ideas that I never would have thought of. But regardless, teachers are better to roll those ideas off. So a co-teacher, hopefully your special education teacher, an interventionist. It could even be somebody in a Facebook group that you respect, or a motivational podcast like this one that you have, Cassie. There might be a teacher author that you follow on Teachers Pay Teachers that you could reach out to. Literally this week, I had a kindergarten teacher message me and say, hey, I bought this arguing visual. I have this kindergartner and I just don't know what to do. I read your directions, but I need more help. And she's like, I feel like I'm going to shame him by using this visual just with him. And I'm like, no, of course you're not. You're doing individualized instruction for the student that actually needs it. But do it for everybody because we all need help arguing our point effectively without being hurtful. So she and I messaged back several times, literally turned it into a blog post because her questions were just spot on to help other people too. So reach out to people, listen, and if you don't feel like you've found your person, keep looking. Because if somebody shames you, tries to make you feel incompetent, then they're not that person that you need. Keep looking, you will find them. It could be in your least expected place. It could be, a podcast. It could be a blog, anything like that. So keep trying because you're not alone. We've all been there. And if you're seeking help, that means that you want to do right by the student, by yourself. You want to do well, you want to do better. And that's the very, very first thing. I've told people before, they're like, oh, how do you work with students with extreme needs? Those with no modes of communication. Like, number one rule is you treat them with respect. That's it. After that, everything else falls into place because, that's all we all really want. So keep that in mind and just keep doing the best that you can and doing your best to put yourself out there. And if you need to cover up some pieces to make sure you don't get hurt, keep looking until you find your person.
Aw, all of that is so good. You have so much advice. I love hearing you. We talk so much about other things, but I haven't got to talk to you that much about your experience in the special needs world. So I love hearing all of that. And I know this is kind of a short episode and there isn't a whole lot of time to talk about the specifics, but I know you have a lot more tips. And I know that you have a free training that you're doing soon. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do. In a couple weeks, I will be doing, I think maybe a week once this comes out, I will be doing a big free webinar, mainly for special education teachers. But if you're a gen ed teacher that's involved in a lot of this, definitely check it out because all of the tools that I'm going to teach you, you can put into place in some of them in minutes, and almost all of them are free or very cheap. And it can just show you how to speed up your writing, your organization, your efficiency. We used to say in my autism classroom, live by the schedule, die by the schedule, which luckily we all just lived by it. So I got a little dramatic about things, but just all those tips that, I accumulated over a couple decades to help speed people up, give them the confidence that they need, and just to get the paperwork part that even if you don't mind it, it still takes up your time. And you need more time in your life to spend with your family, with your pets, with your book, with, going for a walk, anything. So yeah, join me. I will show you how to save all kinds of time and you'll be showing all your friends at school how you did it.
Yeah, paperwork, I think, is probably one of the biggest hurdles or maybe because it was the thing that I always just put to the side and thought I would get to later, but then when it later came, I realized how overwhelming it was to get it all done. So I will put the link to that training inside of the show notes. So anyone who's interested should totally go and get to talk to you a little bit more. You're
Yeah,
just a wealth of knowledge and
thanks.
experience. Okay, so we're pretty much done, except for I always like to end with a little game that has something to do with the guest that I'm interviewing. And since you live on a farm, I thought it would be fun to compare situations that might come up as a teacher or as a special education teacher
Mhm.
to animals on the farm. Does that make sense? So
Yes, I think
I'll,
so.
I'll give you a scenario and
Okay.
then you just tell me what animal that is most like, what farm animal.
Okay, I will do my best.
Okay. Okay. So here is a scenario. You walk into your room and there is just piles of paperwork everywhere and it's just a big mess.
Okay. Okay, so what animal is that? I'm gonna go with that's a donkey baby because donkey babies are, first of all, adorable. Yeah, that paperwork is adorable. But no, it's because donkey babies have this weird gestation. They can be born anywhere between 11 and 14 months. So you never know when the donkey mother is going to have the baby. Just one day there's a baby out in the pasture and you're like, oh, donkey baby. So yeah, and then you have to stop everything and check on the donkey baby and the mom, make sure everybody's all that wonderfulness. So yeah, I'm gonna go with donkey on that one. Uh-huh. But mom,
Oh my gosh.
like I would leave the door open as a kid, and she would be like, "Were you born in a barn?" I was like, "I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. You guys had a cradle for me. I don't know. Was I?"
Never, ever in my life did I ever think that you could associate a pile of paperwork with a baby donkey.
Yeah, for sure, baby, absolutely baby donkey. Like, oh my gosh.
Okay, next one.
All
All
right.
right, you have this big long to-do list. You've checked off a couple things off your list. You're doing good, and then all of a sudden, there's like two or three more things that just come out of the blue and pop up on your list. What animal is that?
Yeah, this is definitely rabbits. You gotta get your rabbit situation under control for sure. Gotta make sure that the males are separated from the females, or they're just everywhere, okay? And Rule King only buys so many rabbits. So yeah, that one's easy. That one's easy. Rabbits for sure.
Okay. All right, next one. Today's a good day. You're on top of everything. Everything went right and you get to go home on time.
Wow, that sounds great. Animal wise, that's got to be a dairy cow. So I grew up on a dairy farm with Holsteins, and those girls. It's 6 a.m. and they're lining up. They're ready. They're ready to get milked, and then again at 5 p.m. they're lining up again, ready to get milked. So they are the clock on the farm, and if they are mooing because you're late, maybe the power was out, there was a storm, something happened. A mooing cow is not a happy cow. Silent cow is a happy cow. So that's also a perfect day, a very calm, silent day. So definitely a dairy cow.
Okay. All right, there's two more.
Okay.
Okay. You're just about to head home and then you get an email come through and it's urgent and it has all these questions that are urgent and must be answered right now.
Okay. So this makes me think of goats in labor because you never know what's going to happen with a goat in labor. Uh, Labor is really important on the farm. So we had a goat named Tracy, and listen, she would have four babies. Four. Goats are not big animals, four babies every time. So you drop everything when Tracy's in labor, and you got four babies to take care of. So definitely, definitely goats.
I love that your goat's name is Tracy.
Tracy was a champ. Listen, she could have started rolling down the hill. She never would have stopped. Bad news. I love that goat.
Okay, last one. You've been asked to go to a meeting and you get there and it has literally nothing to do with you and you do not belong there.
This is definitely a flock of chickens outside because one of them starts squawking, the other one starts squawking. It's a big mess. Somebody starts flying, they're scratching at everything, and nothing gets done, nothing gets accomplished. You have no idea what's happening. I would say that's a lot of staff meetings, or it's just a bunch of chickens. Dirt. Yeah.
Okay, so I've played an end of the podcast game with a lot of guests, and I don't think I have laughed this hard at any of them.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I wanna come take a visit to your farm.
oh my gosh. Yeah, it's, highly entertaining, highly entertaining. Definitely a different way to grow up, and, you have a lot different, obviously, interpretations than other people do about the world, so, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing. I know you have so much more to share, and I will put your email address and all of your links to your socials and the link to the training that you have coming up. And I'm telling you guys, listeners, if you are a gen ed teacher that works closely with special ed, if you have any special ed students, if you are a special ed teacher, you have got to follow Caroline because
Mhm.
she knows her stuff and she has the biggest heart, and her passion is helping other people. I can't tell you how many times she has been working on a blog post or an email response or something for a customer or a teacher friend that needs her help. So I know she would love to help you too. All right, thanks. And I will talk to you later.
Thanks so much, Cassie. Had a great time.
Bye.